The concept of value might be one of the most misunderstood concepts in selling, yet we use the term all the time. We talk about value proposition. We talk about added value. We talk about value engineering. My question is this: are your salespeople leveraging the idea, the concept of value, or are they just misusing and abusing it? This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Welcome to Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs. Great to have you alongside. Hey, take a moment, if you would, like and subscribe to the podcast. And if you know somebody who leads a sales team that's not aware of this podcast, I hope you'll share it as we talk about all of the things that we need to look at systemically and change with regards to sales training. It is your weekly sales strategy guide designed to completely rewire your sales brain. And in this week's episode, I want to talk about this concept of value because it comes up everywhere. Everyone's always talking about their value and my value and our added value and our value proposition. And sometimes I wonder if that word means what we think it means, because I'm not sure that we understand what value is exactly. Now, stay with me. You might be thinking, come on. I mean, the answer to this one's pretty obvious. Well, is it really? I mean, when I have heard people share their value proposition, most of the time I either fall asleep or I'm still trying to figure out what they meant with all the big words that they used. It's been engineered in such a way that it sounds like marketing copy that's designed to win an award, not actually communicate the value, the real value that our solutions provide. So I'm not altogether sure. I'll give you a really good example. I had a client that I worked with in Canada, and they said, we have got an incredible value proposition. I said, well, tell me about it. They said, well, the ROI on our application is unbelievable. I mean, we provide this return on investment, this much efficiency, this much savings, this much this, that, and the other thing. And I go, okay, so how's that working out with your salespeople? Well, you know, we're working on it because it doesn't seem to get any traction in many cases. And in other cases, when we go back and review and look at things and talk to potential clients, they say something about ROI or they mention value, but they can't really tell us what it is. And I said, well, why do you think that is? And they were stumped. They had no idea. And I said, well, here, let me offer some insights. When you are telling people about your value, your ROI, it's truly just information, because value, and this is the critical foundational concept about value is perceived. I mean, there's some very well-known studies out there about people who did wine tasting, for example, and they tasted different bottles of wine that had different price points, everything from $5 and $10 up to $45 and $90 a bottle. And people, they know because they had them connected to an fMRI machine, and it plotted their brain waves and their neuro signals and all those things. When people said, wow, this wine is amazing, the fMRI machine validated that. The only problem is the $90 bottle of wine was the same as the $10 bottle of wine. It just had different pricing on it, and yet people would look at it and look at the price and, you know, do everything that you do and take a taste and just extol the value of this amazing $10 wine that's priced at $90. Value is perceived. I mean, after all, not everyone wants to buy a $5,000 watch. Why in the world would I spend $5,000 on a watch? I mean, my Apple Watch is fantastic. It's $300-400. It does everything, including get my email and text messages and every other thing in the world. And all that $5,000 watch or $10,000 watch does is, well, it just tells time. So why would I spend that kind of money? Ask that question of someone who loves watches and perceives and understands the value of that watch, and you'll get a much different story. So what's the difference? Same product, two people perceive it completely differently. So just by saying we have a return on investment does not value make to your client until they perceive it, connect the dots, and understand how it impacts them personally and what it's going to do for them. Then it's just information. And information in and of itself is not persuasive. And people think that because I say, hey, this automobile gets 45 miles a gallon, people will go, oh my goodness, what are we waiting on? Let's sign this deal. Well, what if I don't perceive that as any kind of value? Now, to some people, it would be enormous value. To others, they may not care. They may care more about other pieces and parts of the automobile, the service, the offering, the customer experience that are far more important to them. So simply stating an ROI does not mean that it's real value to your client. In a nutshell, value is what I get for my money, and typically what that means is that it exceeds the price that I'm going to be asked to pay. And when I say what I get, I'm talking about what I get, what's important to me. And different buyers perceive value in different ways. And so when we're training salespeople, we send them out in the field and we've taught them the product. And as I mentioned in a previous episode of Sales on Training, we talk about the prominent features and how important they are and how our features are better than their features and our ROI. And we think we're communicating real value, but we're not. The whole objective of discovery is to find out exactly what the customer values so that I can connect it to my solution in a way that they go, yes, that is exactly what I'm looking for. That's what I need. That's what's important to me. And so sometimes the value that you provide for one client is completely different than it is for another client. I mean, I often ask, does the lowest price ensure the best customer experience? And people say, no. Does the lowest price ensure attention to detail? No. Does lowest price ensure the best quality or responsiveness or service after the sale? No. Then are those things not valuable? Clearly they are. But we're not selling them and we're not connecting our solution offering to the value that they perceive. One person may have had a horrible experience, terrible follow-up. The salesman was absent, didn't take care of a problem, couldn't get an answer, 30 days of delays while people sent me emails that said, we're working on it, whatever. And to them, the greatest value you can provide is to be present, to be available, to answer questions, to make me feel comfortable, to reduce my level of anxiety and fear and all those things. And meanwhile, what I'm selling is ROI or product features. Now, as I begin to gain their trust, those things may take on more value over time, but it's really important that you understand that. Value is perceived. There's a commercial that I've seen, 50, 100 times now, seems like. We're binge watching something on Paramount Plus, and every break, the commercial comes up because I'm too cheap to buy the non-commercial application. Anyway, another story. Trivago has a commercial out where two individuals are walking up to pay for their stay at a particular hotel. It's, Trivago is an app that you use to find the best deals on a hotel. Well, it shows one guy who's, clearly a big time business guy, and he's kind of got that swagger and he thinks he's important and all that. And he's talking on the phone and he walks up to the counter and talks to the clerk and says, yes, I want to pay for my room. And they said, sir, that'll be I forget the exact price, like $225. And he turns to the other guy and goes, not bad. Like, look at me. I got great value for my money. And then the other guy starts to pay, and the individual says to them, well, because of Trivago, your price is $159. And the guy goes, wait, what? Do you understand that 10 seconds ago he was completely satisfied? He perceived the value to be just right for his application. But suddenly, someone else got a better deal, and a better deal can be whatever value they perceive. In this case, it was simply the price. Suddenly, his perception changed dramatically. Value is perceived. And if you're communicating value and they don't perceive it, you don't help them connect the dots and see how it benefits them specifically, then it's going to be wasted time, wasted communication. You see, the first sale that happens is not your solution, it's your credibility. And are you credible? Are you trusted? Are you a trusted advisor? And it takes time to develop that trust. And that's why people who sell on the first call most often fail. And I mean, most often absolutely fail. Are there exceptions? Sure, but most often they fail. And you don't want to train to do something that fails most often. You want to find a methodology that works way more than it doesn't. And in this case, if you're trying to sell a product before you're credible and before you're trustworthy, then the value that you communicate is not believable. That's the problem. We're trying to talk about value, from our perspective, what we think value is as a salesperson, and we're trying to convince somebody that's valuable before we're credible and they trust us. And that becomes a real problem because anything up to that point is simply information. From many perspectives, value is the product. Your product is just a means to that value. Again, I've said this many, many times in previous episodes. People don't buy your product. They buy what the product does for them. And if you want to extend that to the ultimate end, they're buying the value that it provides for them. That value takes on many forms. It can be reducing risk. It can be assuaging my fear. It can be providing certain unique features or benefits that I don't get elsewhere or I'm not getting now. It can be a lot of things, additional services, but I've got to figure out as a salesperson in discovery what it is that my prospect truly values. Then I can proceed to a concept presentation that includes that value and is connected to them specifically in ways that they perceive it. Make sense? All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about how to effectively communicate value. You don't want to miss this. Stay with me. Hey, thanks for making Sales Untraining your first listen of the week. And if you find something you like, if you hear something that's interesting, I hope you'll share it with somebody you know. You can find out more about me at bizlockerroom.com or email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Now back to the show. But let's talk about some things that if you use these phrases, absolutely going to label you as a salesperson, and it's going to put an enormous amount of friction on your opportunity to get a sale. Well, the first one is the word solution. We provide a complete solution. We have an innovative solution. We have an industry-leading solution. Everybody is selling solutions, because we're solution sellers. We're not peddlers. We're not salespeople. We're selling solutions. Please, just stop. Okay, I mean, it's become such a trite, overused, overdone, worn-out word that people, if they even hear it, all it does is click the switch that says, salesperson, okay, I know what's coming next. Welcome back to Sales Untraining, as we talk about value and how it's quite often misused or abused and certainly misunderstood. And in the sales training process, we need to do a much better job of communicating how to communicate about value and what real value is. Because what we do is we train on the product and we tell our salespeople that everything about this product is the value of the product, all the unique benefits and features of the product. And sadly, that is not true. Can it be true? Sure. Is it true most of the time? No. For most clients, for most of your customers, real value comes in the form of the experience that they have overall, not just with you as the salesperson, but in the delivery and implementation process as well. It also comes in the form of the outcomes, the results that your solution is going to create for them. It also comes in the form of reducing risk and settling my nerves and helping me make the transition much more easily. Sometimes the value is working through the change from one vendor, from one solution to the next, making it that much easier. But what are we focused on as salespeople? Over and over and over, I've said it, we're selling product. We're pushing product. And the value oftentimes has very little to do with the product. It has to do with what the product does and how you provide it and the experience that they have. Those are the things that I want to find out in discovery. Because once I understand what you value, you've literally opened the doors to the kingdom for me. And if I can connect our company, myself, my solution, and the things that we provide to the things that you value, and if that value exceeds the price that we ask, I will get an order. It's just that simple. Well, simple in concept and not so simple in execution. Listen, I get solicited all the time, online, emails, every other thing in the world, routinely trying to sell me a specific service. Because I'm a quote unquote consultant, I will get emails that say, hey, you're a consultant and we understand what consultants need. Consultants need more clients, consistent stream of clients. And we can provide you 3 to 5 new clients every single month. In fact, we've just recently done this with another individual who's in your space, who does the kind of thing that you do. Can we get together? Can we provide an example? Can we send you a video? Whatever the case may be. Now, why do I not respond and why am I not interested? I mean, after all, didn't they hit all the hot buttons? They know that the kind of work that I do, that I'm a consultant, that I sell sales, training and development, leadership, training and development, strategic planning services. I'm a quote unquote consultant, and that's the space that they work in. Number 2, they know what I need. And it's true. What consultant doesn't need more qualified leads that lead to more clients? Certainly I need more clients. And then, of course, all of that, they give me some social proof. They say, hey, listen, we've worked with other people and here's a great example. Now, why in the world wouldn't I jump on that? I mean, after all, isn't that valuable? Well, I think you're way ahead of me here. I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea if their claims are valid. They're just claims. They're generic claims. I don't know if the person they're talking to me about got 3 new prospect leads or actual clients for a total of $50 each or $500,000 each. I don't have any idea. I don't know if it's true. I don't know what that individual consultant had to do, how much they had to invest, how much it disrupted their practice and their time. I don't know anything about these people, and yet they want a cold email. They don't have any idea what I really do, and many times the clues are right there in the email. I'm like, do you really know what I do? Do you really understand how my business works? And the answer is no. You know it's no. I know it's no. So I don't bother with it. But could someone get my attention? Could someone find a way to get me on the telephone to talk about something that is, yes, truly important to any consultant, and that's getting more clients? Could they do that? Absolutely, they could. But they're lazy, and they're sending out mass emails, and they're hoping that by dragging something along the bottom, every now and then they'll hook something and pull it up, and it'll give them the opportunity to try to sell whatever it is that they're selling. The big thing is, I don't have any idea what their methodology is. I have heard a lot of stories about the methodologies that people use to provide these leads and or clients. And frankly, I don't like anything that I hear. So now I'm taking my perceptions based on other conversations and applying it to them. And it may or may not even be valid, but it prevents me from picking up the phone, that's for sure, or returning that email. And therein lies the problem. When you look at all of the things that go into this, how do I validate or ensure that the outcomes that they're providing are actually real? How do they know that those outcomes really do matter to me? For example, while I may need more clients, that's way too broad and generic. I actually may need very specific kinds of clients, very specific sizes of clients, clients who do things a certain way or occupy a certain niche. They're just saying, hey, we're going to get you new clients. Right? So they've done no homework whatsoever. I don't have any idea what I'll have to do to get those outcomes. And the example that they give me is vague, potentially irrelevant, and maybe not even real. So it's a fool's game to believe that just because you offer a product or a service and you think it's valuable, that it will indeed be valuable, because the value comes in how you communicate it and connect it to an individual buyer, an individual company. And so how do you go about communicating value? Well, the first thing is to understand that this is a journey and it starts from zero. The first conversation I have neither credibility nor trust. I don't really have anything. And so if I haven't done any homework that demonstrates that I understand who you are, what you do, and I have a working knowledge of the kinds of challenges and issues and problems that you typically encounter, and I can use language and experience and background to communicate that to you, then I can't even build credibility. Credibility is the first stepping stone to trust. You just don't go from zero to trust because you say, look at all the great things we do and all the great people we've worked with. I don't automatically trust you because of those things. And I've talked about this in other podcasts at length. You know why? Because you have a conflict of interest. I mean, you get paid to tell me how wonderful you are. So I am skeptical from the jump. But if you can demonstrate a deep knowledge of my business and the applications and the industry, and you've got some very specific knowledge about me, then my ears begin to perk up and I begin to think, perhaps you could actually help me. Then if you segue into describing challenges that I routinely face, again, because of your experience, your background, and your research, your homework, you understand the kinds of challenges that I encounter on a regular basis in my role, in my position, in my department, in my company, then I get even more interested because I start to think, here's someone who gets me. Here's someone who understands me. Here's someone who spent the time to understand what I do, how I do it, and the kind of challenges that I'm faced with. And then if you can segue into describing outcomes that might be created, that could change the things that you know are challenges for me, that could solve those challenges, now I'm really beginning to get interested. Because I can tell by your language and the quality and depth of your questions and the conversation that ensues, I begin to open up and I begin to share things. And then instead of selling me something or immediately jumping into a sales posture, you simply get tactically curious and more interested in the potential ways that we might be able to work together. How? By asking deeper questions, by pursuing the conversation, by being interested in me rather than being interested in telling me about you. Big difference. And then finally, we get to the point where you can actually provide some relevant past successes with some details that actually look like the kinds of challenges that I face on a regular basis. Now you're getting somewhere because you're discovering value because I'm responding to you and I'm either saying, yes, that is important to me, or no, it's not, or here are the things that I'm dealing with. And we're pursuing and investigating those things. And you're not here telling me all about your unique value proposition. Instead, you're trying to discover if there's even a potential fit for your value proposition. And by the way, as an aside, one of the big mistakes that I see salespeople make over and over is they don't address very common objections that come up. You know, I've heard people say, well, salespeople will come and say, well, I keep hearing this and I keep hearing this, or they keep objecting to this, or this thing keeps coming up. Let's just take one as an example. We love what you're doing, but the problem is it's just going to be too hard for us to implement. We would have to change so many things, retrain our people, et cetera, et cetera. If you're getting that objection on a regular basis, you should be talking about it right out of the chute. One of the things that we hear very commonly is that people want to make a change. They want to solve the kinds of issues we've been discussing, but they are very scared of how much effort it's going to take, how much change it's going to require, how it's going to impact their day-to-day operations. Well, I want to tell you that having done this many, many times, we create a team of people that come alongside, walk you through the process, and in 3 days, we'll have you up and running exactly as you were before you implemented the new solution. Of course, I made all that up, but you get the idea. Is that I need to assuage that fear that exists. So many times you're losing deals, and all they're telling you is, we love your product, we love your service, we love your solution. It's just more than we want to pay. What they're not telling you is it's way more change than I think we can handle. It's way too much hassle. I'm worried that if I make this change, it doesn't go well, then someone's going to be upset with me, my boss, the CFO, the CEO, whomever it might be. We forget that a lot of the value we provide is reducing risk and helping people navigate change. Do you really understand your value? And more importantly, are you training your salespeople to understand that value? This is Sales and Training.
Sales on Training is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.